I once had a student who couldn't even face me to sing. She stood with her back to me, facing the wall, too scared for anyone to even see her face. A year later, she was performing her first public gig. And I want to tell you that I was that person too. Not just with singing, but with speaking, with showing up, with being seen. And I'm going to show you today the exact journey from facing that wall to stepping on a stage and how you can use it in your business with your camera, your voice, and your life. I'm Ella Vida, and I help women who feel blocked around visibility and expression to free their voice so they can share their ideas and show up more confidently with lives in their lives and in their work. I combine voice work, nervous system support, and subconscious repatterning. And my mission is to help women to stop shrinking and to start expressing who they truly are. This episode is for you if you have something powerful to offer, but you're shrinking. It's time to be visible. You avoid the real, you go quiet in meetings, you talk yourself out of that speaking gig, you rehearse what you're going to say, and then you say nothing. And I know you. I was you. I spent 25 years helping women find their voice, first through singing and now through coaching. And today I am giving you a lot of what I know. So, when I was younger, when I was very young, I was bullied in school. I was told I was thick. I was crap. I wasn't good enough. I was a pain in the ass. I should be seen and not heard or not even seen at all. And the one place that I remember feeling really, really at home when I joined the theatre when I was about 10 or 11. And I did a couple of years in the theatre and I really loved it. And then one time they were auditioning to stay in the youth theatre. And they asked me a really uncomfortable question about why did I think that they were doing what they were doing, that they were auditioning people rather than just taking anyone on. And I mentioned because they wanted the best of the best and they didn't want people in there who weren't very good or couldn't sing. And I was punished for speaking my truth. And that rejection was really, really hard. And I closed down my voice completely. It was like this place where I finally felt I belonged. And then they shut the door on me. And I just felt like I didn't really belong anywhere. I shut down my voice for a decade. And then 10 years later, where I decided to join a band and do a bit of backing singing. And the two people in the audience who I cared about impressing them the most, two people who were singers and very prevalent in my life, I had a dictaphone hanging off the back of a chair. And unknowingly, they went and sat next to that chair. And when I listened to the recording back, I could hear them slagging me off and how terrible my singing was. And so again, I shut down again. And with closing down, I mean, I almost quit for good. And here's what I want you to hear, okay? Even through all of that, something in me still knew. I still wanted to sing. That want didn't go away, no matter how many times I was told I shouldn't, I'm crap, I'm not good enough. It never went away. It just quietened for a little bit. So, what is this for you? What's the thing that keeps coming back to you, even though someone or maybe many people told you that you weren't good enough or you shouldn't be doing this? Because it's that thing that keeps coming back. That's information and that's your soul speaking. That's your passion. That's what lights you up and that's yours. And that should never be taken away by anyone. So, I want to talk about confidence today within this, about being visible and about freeing our voice. So, confidence. Now, you think confidence is a feeling, okay? Because when we're born, it's quite innate. You know, babies are generally quite confident, and it's only through experience of being shut down or told off that we start to become less confident. But actually, confidence isn't just a feeling because sometimes people can blag confidence and even be boastful and pretend that they're confident and be really brash when actually they're not confidence at all. So confidence isn't a feeling, but what it is an action. Confidence is action and it's consistency. But it's not always about pushing through. It's about safety and slowly meeting your edges and working with your nervous system, not against it. So some people think, oh, I'm going to push right through. And we're really pushing against what our nervous system feels safe doing. We get into that fight or flight. And don't get me wrong, on the other side of that, it can be really liberating. And everyone says, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I did do that for quite a long time. And the answer is yes, you can sometimes do that. But what nobody talks about is what happens when your nervous system, when you keep forcing yourself past what's safe, because you either burn out or shut down, or you start to associate showing up with danger. And then we start to procrastinate. And that's not confidence building. I mean, that's trauma. We're creating trauma. So, real confidence is about being built by meeting your edge gently, repeatedly, consistently, most important of all, safely. And I can prove it because I've been teaching this without even realizing it really for 25 years. So let me walk you through a journey. So, for example, with a student's journey, when I was teaching confidence with vocals and stage performance for 20 years. So, think of number one, that student wasn't very confident and facing the wall. When you feel like you can't face anyone, you start here. Start here with no judgment. It's really important to meet yourself with self compassion. Don't beat yourself up about being nervous. Secondly, the next step is facing the room or the audience. For example, in the singing situation, it was about going from a student facing the wall to facing me. It's a small step, but it was a terrifying step for many students, but it was doable. The third step was beginning to relax into it. Consistently, the more they came, the nervous system started settling with repetition. And I was a safe person, so I was always encouraging, and that really helped build the confidence. Then we went from being a one to one into a small group. So safe people only. So everyone that came to our small group had to do the same thing. They all had to get up and sing in front of each other, and they all had to encourage each other. So this is your chosen community. So when you're thinking of doing something and you want to perform it in front of someone, make sure it's someone that, although, yes, you want feedback, but make sure it's someone that's encouraging, someone that has your back, someone that's on your side, not someone that's going to rip it apart and then you feel like you have to quit or start all over again. The next step I used to do was doing student nights where it was students and their friends and family. So the first real audience, but still being held in that safe space. And then last of all, the larger events. So full-time performing, students were going out and starting doing open mic nights and went from that to performing live, getting paid gigs, doing bigger gigs and stepping onto a world stage even. So every single one of my students usually started facing the wall or not looking at me because they were so nervous. Every single one. And some of them went on to make this their career, not because they suddenly became fearless, but because they took one safe step at a time over and over again consistently. So, your version of facing the wall might be creating a reel with your camera on, but maybe facing it away from you, or having a voice note instead of a video, or a live with just three people watching. That's not weakness. That's how this works. That's the method. Just small steps where you feel safe and showing up consistently. So, coming back to my singing story, after that last gig, when I shut down, I then went off to China and I taught English, which was the first time I was kind of really public speaking. I was teaching adults and children in a Chinese school. But the good thing is that it was quite encouraging because where I was teaching in China, most of those people had never seen a Westerner in their whole entire lives. So we were a bit of a novelty, you know? So there was quite a bit of encouragement that came with that. And with the other teachers and the engineers that I was hanging out with that were out there, we used to go to some of the late night bars where there was always a guy singing and playing guitar. And I decided one night to get up and to see what English songs he might know that I knew that were for female vocalists. And I think it was Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. Yeah, I know. Not exactly an easy song, and it had been done to death. But I used to get up after a few drinks about 3 o'clock in the morning and sing to about five people in the bar that were usually my friends and sing that song. And that felt like a safe room for me. And it was a way just to start encouraging me to come out of myself. So I built this environment of only performing in front of people I felt safe with. I went to Bristol, where again, I didn't know anyone. And I thought, you know what? Even if I sound like shit, I'm just going to learn to sound better. I'm just going to learn to sing. Surely you could just learn this. It doesn't have to be a natural talent. I believe that, singing is taught. It's muscles. It's like going to the gym. You're not a natural in the gym. You're not naturally athletic. You just start doing something consistently and you get better at it. And that's what singing is. So, full circle, I went from building myself up gradually, singing in different places around all the right people, generally onto musicians, doing gigs. I was performing at Glastonbury multiple times. I was even getting up and just doing improvisation on main stages, on like the Avalon stage at Glastonbury, for example, my heart in my mouth, but still doing it anyway, meeting that edge and really feeling liberated from it. And coming full circle, the person who actually mocked me back on that gig, on that dictaphone, actually started asking me for vocal tips. And it wasn't that I was fearless on that stage. I was terrified every time. But I had to build up enough safety in my body that I could meet that edge without it destroying me. And that's the difference. So after teaching singing, teaching vocals, and being a professional singer for many years, I felt like I'd really nailed it. And then when COVID hit and live music stopped, I thought I'd lost everything. But what I realized is I'd actually become a confidence coach for 20 years. I just called it vocal coaching. But most of what I did in those sessions was holistic vocal work. So I was doing breath work, somatic exercises, techniques around confidence, nervous system regulation. And I realized that I've actually been doing a lot of this work for decades. So I started studying formally things like neurolinguistic programming, positive psychology, hypnotherapy, psychology. And I started to support musicians who didn't know if they were ever going to perform again, that were in COVID and really struggling to make ends meet. And I just fell in love with confidence coaching, and so that's what I've been doing ever since, is doing hypnotherapy and coaching people to help them to feel confident about themselves and their lives and overcome all their blocks and limiting beliefs. So I want to give you some tools today. So the first tool I want to give you is to find your wall, your safe space. Okay. So what's the smallest, safest version of a visible thing that you've been avoiding? So not the stage, but the wall, the first step to that thing. I want you to name that and start there this week. I want you to name that first step of what you need to do and begin to do that. So that's tool number one. Tool number two is to step into your future self. And I go through a lot of this teaching in my more in depth containers, and we mix this with hypnotherapy and voice work as well. So, in singing, I used to ask if someone was performing a Beyonce song, how would you perform it? So, Beyonce herself even has an alter ego called Sasha Fierce. Now, here's the thing. You can use this in your business. Now, I'm not asking you to be someone else. I'm still asking you to be authentic and who you are. But what I want you to ask is this: who are you when you're confident? What are you like when you are confident? And if you had all of the confidence that you ever needed, what would you be doing? And so I want you to close your eyes if it's safe to do so and have a think about this. What would you be doing if you could do anything? If you felt confident to do anything, what would you be doing? How do you move? How do you speak? What are you doing? How do you show up on camera? And then step into that version of you, embody that version of you on a daily basis, because that is you. It's just the version that said yes. It's the version that didn't freeze and step away. So stepping into that version of yourself, really beginning to safely and gently embody those visuals, or even if you don't see visuals, but just that feeling of how it would feel to step fully into that confident version of yourself. And then as you do that as well, just begin to relax all of your muscles, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your tongue, and making your out breath longer than your in breath. So you're beginning to slow the heart rate down. So as you're thinking of stepping fully into that confident, authentic version of you that's doing whatever it is that you want to be doing that you might have been putting off, giving your body a physical cue to relax and to slow the heart rate down, and begin to tell yourself, as you can visualize or imagine it or feel this happening and know this to be true, to just keep saying to yourself, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. Tool number three, remember how you feel after. So we focus so much on the fear before that we forget about the feeling after. So think about a time when you did something really scary and then how you felt on the other side of that. That relief, that pride, that buzz. Reach for that feeling when the fear comes. So ask yourself, how am I going to feel after I've done this? You know, imagine yourself thinking, I've done that thing. I'm really proud of myself. I feel elated. I feel relaxed. I feel relieved, because the nerves and the exhilaration, they live right next to each other. They are the same, that nervousness and that excitement and that relief and that buzz. It's all the same chemicals a lot of the time. So just start to think about not the nervousness before, but how you're going to feel after and how amazing that's going to be, and head towards that point. Tool number four, the balance point. So, not too much and not too little. It's not about bouncing from being really self conscious and shrinking to suddenly becoming really overconfident and arrogant. And it's not going from one to the other. It's about finding that middle, that steady, grounded place that meets your nervous system, because that's where it's sustainable. That's where sustainable confidence lives. Not the high of the stage rush, but the quiet knowing that you can do this. Tool 5 is the visualization and the breath tool. Think about the next small visible step that you've been putting off and hold that in your mind. Now, I want you to breathe in for 4 counts. We'll do this together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out for 8. Or in for 3, 2, 3, and out for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you don't always have to count, but always making the out breath longer than the in breath. This tells your nervous system that you are safe. It begins to slow the heart rate down, and you can imagine grounding yourself so your feet flat on the floor, softening every muscle in the body. And now imagine yourself doing that thing and it going really well. People are responding. You're okay. You're safe. You keep doing it. You repeat the process. And then you're more than okay. And then keep breathing, breathing in for 4, out for 8. And just keep saying to yourself quietly, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And that's it. That's the start. Now, here's the thing I haven't told you yet. So, most of my career as a singer, as a professional singer, performing on really big stages all over the world, including Glastonbury Festival and WOMAD and lots of others, I couldn't speak to my audience. I was so scared of public speaking. It was ridiculous. I felt so awkward on stage whenever I had to speak because it wasn't rehearsed, it wasn't the lyrics, and I was always worried about what I might say, that I might end up saying the wrong thing, especially if I'm trying to engage with the audience. And it's only over the last 6 years, really since COVID and starting to coach more, that through nervous system work and hypnotherapy and just relentless consistency that I've been able to show up online. For example, anyone that remembers my Facebook group back in the day with tea and positivity, I began to push myself to show up every morning just for 10 minutes, just as a bit of a pep talk to people to make them feel good. So it was called Tea and Positivity. And every morning I showed up for 10 minutes, not knowing sometimes what I was even going to talk about. It got to the point where I'm not the most organized person in the world. So for a start, I was really organized and the sessions were a bit long and people were like, this is great, but I haven't got half an hour to listen to you do a lecture in the morning when I'm getting the kids ready and I'm getting out and I've got the school run. And so my friends were like, look, I could do 10 minutes. I could be getting ready at the same time, or I can just sit and meditate for 10 minutes or whatever it is that you want me to do for that 10 minutes. And as I got more confident, I started just showing up. And a lot of those sessions, I would literally start with, I don't actually know what I'm going to say today, but I would just start to let it come out. And within that, I had this sense of trust all of a sudden that it would just come. And I began to really feel myself like a channel where I would just flow whatever would come through me. And it was a bit nerve wracking to start with, but it did start to work really, really well. And I did this for a whole year in the end. And just that regular consistency meant I could go from being scared to not even say a word in between songs to then being able to chat every day online, live, unedited for 10 minutes every day. So I'm promising you, if I can go from that to that, then I can get you to post that reel, no problem at all. 25 years ago, a girl stood with her back to me facing the wall, too scared to let anyone hear her voice. I've watched that girl and hundreds of versions of her. I've walked her through every single step from facing that wall to facing her audience confidently on the stage. I've been her myself over and over again in different rooms, different industries, different versions of myself, from singing to speaking, from doing different things. And what I know for certain is this: your voice matters. Not when you're perfect, not when you're ready, right now, exactly as you are. So follow what lights you up, meet your edges gently, work with your body, not against it, because we don't want you burning out, and take the next small step. And that is all you have to do. That's the whole thing. So if this resonated with you, I'd love you to share this with another woman in your world who's hiding right now, especially if they're running a small business or they're an entrepreneur, because your work needs to get out there. Your voice needs to get out there. She needs to be heard more than she knows. And I want you to work with me on this, on your visibility, your voice, your confidence in your business. So come and find me. I'm at ellavida.com. You can find me Ella Vida Coaching on Instagram and on Facebook, or you can email me at info@ellavida.com. Because I believe in you. I want you to shine your light and go out there and share your voice and your ideas and your work and your creativity with the world. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time. Big love, blessings, and peace.